Welcome, everyone, to the 2026 primary election Hillsborough School Board virtual candidate forums with the League of Women Voters and Families for Strong Public Schools. We are on District 2 today. I am Amy Marie Granger Welch. I am the Deputy Director for Families for Strong Public Schools, and we are a nonpartisan statewide grassroots organization dedicated to supporting and strengthening Florida's public schools. We work to empower parents, students, educators, and community members with information, resources, and opportunities to engage in the decisions that shape public education. And we believe informed voters and engaged communities are essential to strong public schools. And we're proud to partner with the League of Women Voters to help provide this forum so voters can hear directly from the candidates. Teresa, you're up.
Hi, I'm Teresa Potter, co-president of the League of Women Voters of Hillsborough and Pasco counties. I'm going to give a very brief overview of important voting information for the primary election, and then we'll get straight to our candidates. First, just want to make sure that everybody knows that August 18th is not just a primary for partisan elections. Everyone can vote, including those registered no party affiliated. Obviously, our school board and judicial races are nonpartisan, but we even sometimes have universal races on the primary ballot, where we have two candidates from one party running and nobody from the other party, so everybody can vote in those races. So it's important to know that it's not just for partisan races. The deadline to register was July 20th, so hopefully you're already registered. It's not too late to register for the November election. And even I want to make sure that it's important. Sometimes people think if they're classified as an inactive voter that they can't vote, but even voters who didn't vote in the 2024 election and they're marked as inactive with the supervisor of elections, you are still registered to vote and eligible to vote. You have to miss two general elections. After that, you would have to register again, but if you've just missed one, you're good to go. You can also change your address at any time. So if you just recently moved to Hillsborough County and you didn't have time to update your voter registration, but you came from another county in Florida and you were registered to vote there, if you're registered to vote in Florida, you can change your address even on election day at your precinct. So there's no deadline for that. There is a deadline to request a vote by mail ballot. So the deadline for that is August 6th. It's 12 days before the election. You can request it online, by mail, or by phone. They can be dropped off. It can be mailed back if you mail it back early. If you haven't mailed it back early and you're concerned about it getting there by 7 p.m. on election day, you can drop it off at any early voting site during early voting. On election day, you cannot drop it off at your precinct. It can only drop it off at supervisor of elections offices on that day. However, you can vote in person, even if you have a vote by mail ballot. You would surrender that ballot and vote in person at your precinct. Early voting in Hillsborough County starts August 3rd and goes all the way through the 16th, the Sunday before Election Day, from 10 to 6. And then Election Day, of course, is August 18th from 7 to 7. And now we're going to go straight to our candidate forum for District 2. And each candidate will have 2 minutes to give an introduction. And we will start with Brittany.
Brittany.
Okay, perfect. Hi, everyone. My name is Brittany Lissy, and as I said, I'm running for Hillsborough County School Board District 2. I am a mom of 3 young children, so I have a very good understanding of how every decision at the school board level will impact, our students for the rest of their academic career, because my children themselves will be coming up through this system, and every decision made today will affect them. I am also an attorney. I have spent my career working in education policy. I love it so much. I'm actually getting a PhD in it right now. But I have spent my career working with school board members and state legislatures across the nation to affect positive change through policy at both the state and local levels. I am a Florida native. I was brought up in a Florida public school not too far from here. And because of that great public school that I was able to attend, I was able to graduate as valedictorian and get an academic scholarship to the University of Florida. I'm so appreciative appreciative for that opportunity, and I understand how strong public schools can really make a difference, because had it not been for that opportunity, my parents would not have been able to afford to send me to college. I was the first in my family to actually go to and graduate from college, let alone to get an advanced degree. So I am here to be a champion for students and parents and really make sure that every child in Hillsborough County has the chance to succeed no matter what their background is, because that is what the public school system is here for. Thank you.
Thank you. Chris, you're next.
Man, I got a frog. Good afternoon. My name is Chris Taylor, and I am running for District 2 also. I grew up in Lakeland. I went to college at Vanderbilt University. I have a degree in political science and psychology, both from Vanderbilt University. I am currently a doctoral candidate. Much to my chagrin, I have not yet defended my dissertation there at the Muma College of Business in Information Systems and Management. Currently, I work for a NASDAQ public company, but if I go back to my beginning roots, I spent more than a decade in the classroom. After that, I spent 6 years as in a quasi-administrative post called a school community specialist and then a human relations specialist at Armwood High School. I also coached for 24 years. I formed a number of companies. I was something of a serial entrepreneur, and I uh, eventually created a very modest private equity firm. And then I went when the recession came and joined two gentlemen who used to work for me in trying to take a company public. We did that. Didn't have taking a company public on my bucket list, but I put it on there because it was a lot of fun. Checked it off. During that time, I never left what I call the education ecosystem. If there's an organization supporting education, it seems as though I've been involved in it heavily and risen to leadership in the Hillsborough Education Foundation, which I chaired, the Hillsborough Community College, which I chaired, the the College of Education up at USF, which I'm currently a co-chair of, and a number of others, but I'm running out of time. So
Now you know what it sounds like, guys.
Daniela.
Hi, I'm Daniela Simic. I'm also running for school board in District 2. I've dedicated the past 25 years of my career towards making a difference in our society by working in the field of education. After graduating from UPenn with my master's in educational policy and leadership, I moved to Tampa in 2003 and started teaching in Ybor City. I worked my way up through leadership positions. I worked for the Bureau of School Improvement for the Florida Department of Education, where I traveled the state supporting our lowest performing schools and doing that real ground level work to help close the very real achievement gap that exists in our school system. I was executive director in Miami-Dade, overseeing their DNF schools, and chief of curriculum instruction in Duval. Eventually, full circle back to Hillsborough, where I was assistant superintendent. And over the past several years, I've had the opportunity to work on the business side of education, giving me a national perspective of how school districts run. But honestly, what really brought me into this race was my work with PTA. I'm the proud mom of a fourth grader who attends our public schools. I am his PTA president, and I also sit on the board of our school district's PTA as the vice president of advocacy. And it is specifically through this work that I have seen how legislation at the state level is continuing to impact the way our classrooms are run. And as a lifelong educator and now as a mom, I really feel a sense of urgency to step up and help drive policy at that local level that gives every child that very crucial chance of having a great education. And that is why I'm running for school board.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. You ready to set the timer, Teresa?
Yes, and for this, it's 1 minute answers.
Yeah. And if any of you want me to reread a question, I am happy to reread the question. Some of them have a little like a precursor to them. So the question's at the end, but I'm happy to reread at any point. Chris, you're going to go first. As you know, The Florida Constitution legally binds the state to make adequate provision for a uniform, efficient, safe, secure, and high-quality system of free public schools. What is the role of the school board in ensuring this, and where do you think Hillsborough schools do this well? And where is there room for improvement? Muted. Sir,
You're muted.
don't worry, we'll give you your time back.
Good for one of those in every Zoom meeting, and I've only been doing it since the pandemic. First of all, I wish that we had more ways to influence the legislation uh, and adjust revenues that are coming to us, but we have to live with what's there. And that means that we got to prioritize our budgeting. Let me explain. We need to take a classroom first mentality. When we look at this, we have to make sure that we are thinking first, how is this going to impact the classroom? There are a ton of decisions that have to be made. Some of them don't appear like they impact the classroom, but they do, like a shortage of school bus drivers or something like that. 2 years ago, I was in shock at the impact of buses arriving late and students missing periods of class because it was our fault. So my answer is number one, we're going to make a priority of making the classroom first.
Thank you. Daniela, you are up.
Okay, so a three parts question. So the role of the school board is to hire and evaluate the superintendent, oversee the budget, but also what I see as really the most important is creating the priorities for the district, which then leads to creating the policies that you have to align to, which leads to adopting programs. And that sets the stage really for what the superintendent and his staff, what their actions are and what they do. So I think Hillsborough has a lot to be proud of. We have amazing teachers and staff. We have already a variety of options when it comes to choice for different pathways, advanced academics, IB, AP, ACE, dual enrollment, Cambridge. We have CTE programs in all of our high schools and in almost all of our middle schools. We have made significant investments in safety. We're an A-rated district for the first time since 2014, but at the same time, we really do need to focus on teacher retention and strengthening our supports for our students with disabilities and improving communication and transparency.
Brittany.
Yes, so Hillsborough County has done a lot of things really well recently, but it is very important that every child does have a chance to succeed, right? That's what the state statute is really getting at. And so being sure that all of our schools, have a uniform programs and uniform policies in place so that every child has access to the different programs. You see we have all these great AP, IB, ACE, and CTE programs, but they're not accessible to every student. And so really making sure that every child in Hillsborough County, no matter where they come from, no matter what area of the county they're in or what school they're at, that they really do have access to these programs, and making them be available uniformly and consistently throughout the district is something that we can really work on. And that alone will help provide a much better experience for every child here in Hillsborough County.
All right. Daniela, you're up first on this one. How should districts address disparities in resources or opportunities between schools?
Okay, so this is really honestly what I've spent most of my life's work doing. So our greatest resource is our human capital. So first we need to make sure that we're retaining our high performing teachers, making sure they have professional development, support they need. From there, it's tiering your schools and tiering the support based on identifying the needs that those individual schools have. What does that support look like when it comes from the district? How are we providing additional professional development, prioritizing resources for those schools? And then it's really important to look at the data and replicate successful models. So for our tier 3 schools, the schools that need the most support, what has worked, what hasn't, what intervention systems, what tutoring systems that we have in place. And honestly, overall, for all of our schools, we need to make sure that we have a real solid tier one, that basic level of instruction in place, having a solid core curriculum where we really tap into the content experts that are on our superintendent's team and invest in quality curriculum.
Brittany, you are next.
Yes, so we need to have a uniform and consistent curriculum throughout the county. And we also really need to get the parents involved and help educate the parents on what is happening in their local schools and how they can make an impact on their students. That also goes to having a universal and consistent behavioral consequence policy that is applied consistently throughout the district to help allow students that are in more disruptive classrooms have access to a safe and secure learning environment where their learning is not disruptive. And then it really, really would make an impact to bring in some public-private partnerships that are local to the community that the school is in. That community helps build the school, and then the school then helps build the community. So to bring in the community members and the businesses and let those students and families know that they're really supported by those around them can make a huge difference in the lives of students that are coming from some of our lower performing schools. Just letting them know that the community cares about them is a big step in the right direction.
Thank you. Chris, rounding out.
Obviously, there are inequities in our school system. We have performing schools and we have low performing schools, although things are so much better now than they were just a couple of years ago. Danielle is right. The most important asset that we have are the human beings that are at the front of the classroom changing lives. And we have to keep those. And I've been preaching this for a long time, since back with the last cycle when I was touring with you, Amy Marie. We have to maintain or keep our high performing teachers. If the Bank of Tampa was losing between 18 and 24% of their employees every year, they'd be going crazy. They'd be doing everything they could to keep those high performers. We have to do it because in our low performing schools, it's double that. It's 36% that are turning over.
Thank you. Brittany, you are first on this round. How should districts address concerns about teacher recruitment and retention in Florida?
Yes, so everybody has mentioned it here. It is a huge issue that every school district is dealing with, teacher recruitment and retention here. So what I have heard from teachers, I've been out on the ground talking to parents, teachers, students, and the number one complaint that I'm getting from teachers is that they want to be in the classroom teaching and they're having a very hard time feeling supportive when it comes to behavioral and consequences. They are not feeling supported when it comes to their local principals or their administrative staff. So having a very distinct and universally applied disciplinary program and policy, I think could really help that, because then you'll see it's being applied uniformly and consistently throughout the district. And so those teachers will have more support, and the principals will have more support, knowing that every child in the district has been treated fairly and has been treated the same way. And that does not mean to just remove children from the classroom, right? We need to address the root cause of that, get them their mental health and any type of help that they need so that they can get back into the classroom and really learn and be productive.
Thank you. Chris, you are next.
This is a problem. I've been talking about it for 2 years. We are in a perfect storm in Florida. Florida is now the fastest growing state, faster than Texas, which means we have more humans moving here, more bodies, more children, and the need for more human beings at the front of the room, whether it's private schools, charter schools, or public schools. We have a complete collapse of the pipeline. We used to have more than 11,000 students enrolled in the College of Education up at USF. That number is now down closer to 2,100. I know this. I'm on the board up at the College of Education. We do not have teachers coming into the pipeline. Yes, compensation is part of it. And that's why I talked about that budgeting with Classroom First. But the other huge thing is a loss of autonomy and control in the classroom. And we kept talking about uniformity, but every student isn't the same.
Thank you. Daniela.
Yeah, I mean, teacher recruitment is really important, and I'll talk about that. But to just touch upon the teacher retention, we have to make sure that our teachers are feeling supported because compensation is not the best in Florida. We're 50th in the nation. So in order to give them another motivating factor to work in our school system, we have to make those working conditions as great as possible. And if you ask our teachers, honestly, majority of the time they'll tell you the reason they're leaving is because of those working expectations and all the extra we keep piling onto their plates. And our teachers, what they really want is support from their leaders. They want consistency. They don't want so many changes happening all the time. They want the ability to have additional professional development and the ability to not have additional professional development if they've already had some. As far as recruitment goes, I think it's a great chance to work with our local universities to make sure our teachers hit the ground running.
Thank you. All right, Chris, you are first on this one. Florida's Schools of Hope law can allow certain charter schools to operate in unused rooms on a public school campus while limiting how much authority local school boards have over certain school facility decisions. If a public school in your district were affected by a Schools of Hope proposal, how would you work to protect students, support the school community, and ensure families are informed throughout the process? You're muted, sir. Sorry.
Me too. I apologize. While there are so many different places to go with a at one time well-intentioned policy that is absolutely corrupt. It was made so by one of the management companies that came in. This is like saying that the Holiday Inn can rent out your room that you have that's vacant now because your child went off to college. And so, oh, we're going to give them your room and you're going to pay their air conditioning and their electricity and everything else. We have to follow the law. And we will follow the law, but we need to look and manage numbers. We need to understand that a band room may not be used 7 periods a day, or a biology lab be used every single period every day. We need to hold the same level of accountability for every student on a site, not half the students going by one set of rules, half the students going by another. And we need to scream ouch as a school system.
Thank you. Daniela, you're up next. You're muted. It's okay.
I think when this legislation first came about, it looked a lot worse than it does now. Thankfully, we do have some guidelines in terms of what percentage vacancy and how many schools of hope each of our, or how many co-locations each of our schools of hope can do per year. But having said that, the law is the law, and we need to work alongside that. My biggest concern is rolling up our sleeves moving forward. How are we going to make sure our parents are a part of the communication in this? What are we going to do to involve them in this, in the process, so that they know, that they feel that they have that support and that they aren't scared and then end up leaving our public schools? Making sure that our students have consistency. You're going to be having potentially 2 different bell times, 2 different behavioral processes in place. We really have to put the students first when we're thinking about running 2 schools in one building. And that really comes down to communicating with the families.
Brittany, you're up.
Yes, so we need to have transparent and constant communication with the families, of the schools that might be affected, so that they do understand, how this will affect them, how this will affect their students, and really keep the students at the front of every decision that's being made as this is going forward. We will see, hopefully we will see that, they are trying to do, the children of the same ages and of the same realm where they can be, together and it won't be so disruptive. But while that is happening, we do have to take into account that, as was mentioned, that they might have different schedules and different curriculums and different even dress codes and school uniform policies and things like that. So while that's happening, we really need to make sure that students are prepared and that students understand, and that the facilities are also being treated, properly and fairly, and that we can have some oversight as to what is happening on the public school system campuses, and the charter schools are not just running.
Thank you. All right, Daniela, you're first on this one. How would you prioritize spending decisions during tight budget years?
Okay, well, most of our years are tight budget years. But my first priority is always making sure that we are protecting the investments that have the greatest impact on our students. Making sure that we are protecting instruction, student support, school safety, always those are going to be the priority. And one way that we can do this is to make sure that we're using every funding source as strategically as possible. So, for example, if a project can be funded with capital funds instead of funding with operating funds, and that frees up some space with your operating funds where you could spend them on things like that directly impact students, like ESE interventions, reading interventions, counselors, school safety. So being able to really understand the budgets and knowing what you can legally work with to free up some extra space to spend on what helps our kids the most, because that's really what the guiding question should always be, is what's going to benefit kids the most.
Thank you. Brittany, you're next.
Every decision should be made with the student's best interest first. And with that, I am an attorney, so I do have an experience in really digging into contracts and helping to negotiate for different terms and different deals, and understanding what's in the fine print. And so being able to take that experience to the board and look and see where we might be able to save money, and where we might be able to spread out different resources so that they're getting into the classroom and they're not being spent on administrative burdens, or they're not being spent without any transparency and oversight, because that's just what has always been happening, right? One contract is given out over and over and over again. Well, I think it's time that we really look into that, because we are always going to be in a budget constraint here in the education system. We see that the numbers are not going up from the state. And so every decision has to be made with, how can we save money? How can we get the best impact for students and the best deal for the taxpayers? Because that's ultimately who we're responsible to.
Okay. Chris.
Started off with this classroom-centric budgeting. We have to make that the priority. And as Daniela said, we have to protect the most important asset that we have, which are our teachers. And we have to maintain and keep our high-performing teachers. It's difficult for middle level and downtown level administrators to comprehend that they're not all essential, and that their decisions that they make, they like to think they all impact lives, but classroom teachers are what impacts lives. And we have to really direct our resources towards keeping them and making those decisions work. We do need people who know budgets. We do need people who know contracts. We do need people who understand complex business situations. And we need to understand what the job will entail.
Thank you. Thank you. Brittany, you're first on this one. What is your vision for the future of public education in Florida as education options continue to expand?
Yes, so I think that, the expansion we're seeing in education options is great, because I would love to see an individualized education approach for every child. I know that's very far-fetched, because we serve so many students, but being able to provide that choice, even within the public school system, right? All of our schools were open for choice this year. So allowing parents to make that decision as to which school best fits the needs of their children is really where I see this going. And I'm glad that that is happening, because parents absolutely should be involved. And with that comes preparing their children for success. We know that not every child is going to go to college, and that is fine. That's amazing because these children will have opportunities to go into the trade and vocational services. They'll have opportunities to go into the military, and making sure that they're prepared the best for whichever path they choose is what the school system is here for. And so providing that choice and to keep expanding it and allowing the students to be successful is ultimately a good thing.
Thank you. Chris, you're up.
We can't cut our way to making our schools better. As our revenues decrease, we have to find a way to win our parents' confidence to put them in public schools. One of the issues, and we were talking earlier, I heard others say conformity. We have to have conformity all across the district. And part of the problem is in Western education is we've industrialized education. What I mean by that is we do it like Henry Ford making Model T Fords, and every right spoke is exactly 8 inches long. And we do this whole process so that sixth grade math teacher is saying and doing exactly with her students what the one across town is saying and doing that sixth grade math teacher. And anybody who's been involved with kids knows that they're not at all remotely all the same. And we have to focus on allowing teachers to teach.
Thank you. Daniela?
Yeah, I mean, choice is here to stay. It's going to continue to grow, and I want our Hillsborough County schools to be the first choice. And I want and in order to do that, we need to make sure that we have the best educators in front of our kids. We need to make sure that we have the safest schools. We need to make sure that we continue to expand on all of the options that we have, that we're doing a really good job on, and continue to expand on those. But also, since, being a part of PTA and being out there as an advocate and talking to families, the reasons why they're leaving public schools and going to other choices, a lot of them are having to do with not feeling that their students are getting the resources they need when their students have additional needs. So if their student has an IEP or 504, or if they're just a student with disabilities, our families are leaving. They feel like there's other places that they can get better support. So we really need to invest in our ESC department, our exceptional student education department. And another area our families are leaving is when they transition to middle school. So what does that mean? How are we ensuring that we have the strongest middle schools so that we have the best choices for our families?
Yeah. All right. Chris, you're first on this one. What role should school boards play in advocating for state funding or legislative changes?
School board member can only advocate. They can't lobby. They can't go and lobby legislators, but they can advocate and they can point out what's clearly there. Their job should be to educate people. It should be to do a lot of the things that 2 years ago people like me were out doing, to talk about why we needed the referendum, why we needed to pay our teachers more. I think that we have to become our best salesman. We have to learn to tell the great stories of the amazing things that are going on. Look, the improvement in our school district, at least the way the state measures it, the improvement over the last 3 years is monumental. It has really changed since the previous administration. We need to sell that story to all the community.
Thank you. Daniela?
Yeah, school board members, you have a louder voice, so you should be using that voice to advocate on behalf of your constituents and the people who elected you. What I've learned through my advocacy work with PTA is that when you are advocating at levels like Tallahassee or Washington, that you need to bring data. You need to really break it down as to why you're advocating for what you're advocating for. Bring stories, bring other people with you that they can share how this is going to benefit society. I think a lot of times when you're talking to legislatures, they might not have the full story, and you think that they do because you're so immersed in education, but really breaking it down and explaining it and having that data, having those stories, and having the people backing you up. It is our job when when we have a louder voice as school board members to make sure that all of the people that we're representing are heard. And I think that's the best way to do that, is to go about that strategically.
Yeah. Changed the music. Percy, you're
It
up.
is absolutely the role of a school board member to go and advocate on behalf of those who they represent, on behalf of their students, their families, their teachers, and their support staff. We are the ones here in the community that are seeing the impact of what is going on in Tallahassee and how it's affecting our students and our families. Being able to go to Tallahassee and tell them what we're seeing, tell them what our parents and teachers and students are experiencing. It also is beneficial when you have a relationship with the legislators with the legislators from the area. I'm very fortunate to have worked with many of them on many different bills, and they respect what I say because I've been working with them. So being able to have that relationship and that open line of communication with Tallahassee and also with Washington, D.C. is something that I would be able to bring to the table because I have done it already, and I have a wealth of knowledge and experience working up with our state legislatures in getting effective policy passed, and then also following up and letting them know what they did is working or it's not working, and letting them know how it's affecting us here.
Yeah. All right. Daniela, you're first on this one. What principles would guide your communication with the public regarding school district referendum measures, and how would you ensure voters have the information they need to make informed decisions?
Yeah. Okay, this is something that I do with my advocacy role with PTA. Voters, they deserve clear and accurate and unbiased information. It's not my job to tell people how to vote. It's not a school board member's job to do that, but it's our job to give them the facts. That means showing them how past referendums were invested. So going back to that data, what those investments produced, the district's plans for any new funding that the future investments could lead to, exactly showing how is every dollar going to be tracked. That's really building that trust and that transparency. I also think that it shouldn't just come from the school district. I think we should partner with organizations. I mean, like PTA, like League of Women Voters, like Families for Strong Public Schools, and make sure that we're messaging and we're aligned on what we're educating the community about. Most important, we need to be available, we need to communicate, we need to be transparent.
Thank you. Brittany, you're up.
We have seen a lack of trust in the public when it comes to, I think, the school board or local government as a whole. And so we must be transparent and we must really let the voters know what is happening, what the facts are, and why some of these referendums are coming on their ballots. That is the most important thing. We have an educated society, and it is our right to vote on what is happening in our communities. And so bringing a referendum or a question to the voters is important, and making sure that they have all the information and the facts to go along with it is also important. Transparency and consistent communication, and allowing the voters to really understand why the questions are being brought to them and how they might impact their local community, positively and negatively, right? We can't just share one side of it. We must give them all of the facts and all of the information so they can make their decision.
Thank you.
Can't hear you.
You're up. I'm sorry, I hit my headphone.
Sorry. Thank you, Amy Marie. I've done this in the past. I was one of I was the chairman of the board of one of those organizations that was partnered with to go out and tell the story. And we talked about the referendum and the necessity to pay our teachers. Before that, we had referendums on a half-penny sales tax to do capital expenditures within our school district for capital items that had long since been neglected with delayed maintenance. We have to educate the public on why it's there. We do that now. Actually, we do an exceptional job of it. We had a bipartisan committee of local people in our county that approved all of the budgets of the the most recent referendum and all of the spending, and it's all online for everybody to
Thank you.
see.
Brittany, you're up on this one. What is your understanding of the school district's procurement process, and what approach would you take to identify potential cost savings without compromising educational quality or student services?
Yes. So procurement processes happen when a school or a district department brings a need forward and identifies something that they need, and then we go out and we bid the contracts, and we make the decisions based off the recommendations of staff, and then they go to the board for a vote. Saving money there is extremely important because our contracts are where we spend a lot of the money. Being completely transparent with the voters and not having any conflicts of interest when it comes to different vendors that we're working with or being beholden to any certain company is extremely important, because when we're giving out millions of dollars worth of contracts, the community deserves to know if any board members have any relationships with different vendors and different contracts, because that alone is not transparent and does not allow the community to save money. So really looking into the process, digging into the contracts, making sure that we're getting the best deal, and not just relying on the word of the staff, but really looking at it ourselves to make that decision.
Thank you. Chris.
Procurement is a question I don't usually get. Great question. Number one, there is a process, and the process is designed to make it fair and to make it competitive. But unfortunately, particularly with some of the more sophisticated contracts or tech, what happens is it gets masked in this shroud of terms and everything else. We should not be contracting with the people who did the best job selling the district on it. We should be contracting with the best provider at the price. If there's an item that we're trying to get and it's available for free from a nonprofit organization that specializes in education, we should be using that one first before we do it. The other side is also we need to put an emphasis on reaching out to local companies that could fill that and local contractors who might be able to fill the procurement.
Okay. Daniela.
Yeah, so our procurement process for large investments, our district has a competitive bidding process. It starts with RFPs, and the school board's role is to make sure the guidelines are being followed. So to make sure that those investments, the purchases are the best choice. The superintendent staff, the experts come to the school board and share what their choices are. And it's our job to listen to their reasoning, but also we're the checks and balances. So asking questions that our constituents would want to ask, because we are investing in using taxpayer funds for the investment. I think we always should look at ways to make sure that we're strengthening the process. Are we getting multiple competitive bids? Are we renewing contracts just because that's what we've always done, or is it because it's the best option? Those are the kinds of questions as board members you should be asking. I also think there's no reason why we shouldn't have a public-facing dashboard that shows the community, these investments have worked, these haven't worked, this is what we've adjusted, and that really allows for that transparency and the building of trust to happen that we really need in our district.
Thank you. All right. Last question. Chris, you're going to go first on this one. This November, Hillsborough County voters will decide whether to change from an appointed superintendent to an elected superintendent beginning in 2028. What factors should voters consider when deciding this referendum? And what is your perspective on the role of the superintendent in serving this district?
One, I think that we need to maintain an appointed superintendent. And the largest reason is because this man is running the largest business entity in the county, and he has the capability of signing contracts and making decisions, economic decisions with regard to capital and to property. And we cannot let that person be subject to an elected office where money matters for everything. It's not a crazy scenario to think in your mind that some anonymous developer is going to come to the superintendent and say, I'll put $500,000 in your political committee, which he can do. It's unrestricted. And then I want you to remember me when the Jefferson High School site comes up for sale, or when the Brewster Tech site is talked about.
Thank you. Daniela.
Yeah, in 2024, Hillsborough voters, well, everybody chose to keep school board elections nonpartisan. And so now 2 years later, it's being brought to, well, we can't have school board members be partisan. Let's have our superintendent be partisan. Personally speaking, I'm going to be voting no on this. I don't think that we should be having a partisan superintendent. I think that as an educator, what I want is somebody who's been in my shoes, somebody who's been in the classroom, in school leadership, district leadership. That's who our educators look up to and respect, is someone who really has that empathy and understanding. I also, through this process, have learned that campaigning takes a lot of your time. And for our superintendent, he or she, to have to do that every 4 years, that's about a year's worth of their time being taken away from where they can solely focus on what our kids need. That to me is concerning. And then finally, we would be the largest district in the nation with an elected superintendent, and that's not something I want to be known for.
Brittany.
The superintendent operates as like the district's chief executive, right? And they handle the day-to-day operations of the school district. So right now they are accountable to the school board. I could see where some voters might think that, they would like to elect the superintendent. That way they are accountable then to the voters. I just think we really need to educate the public on what the system would look like if that were to happen. I like to explain it as right now the board is like the county commission and the superintendent is like the county administrator. They handle the day-to-day. People don't really see them. They don't really know exactly what they do most of the time, but they are there and they have their role. If we were to change to an elected superintendent, it would be like having the city council and a mayor. Each person in each board would have then a different mandate from the voters. They would be responsible to the voters. They would operate more independently, and the board would not have that control over the superintendent that it does have now. So making sure that the public has access to that information and would understand what it would look like is very important.
Thank you. All right. I'm going to do closing comments. You'll have a minute each. Unless we have any other questions. I know we have probably a couple minutes. Ida, did you have any questions that you want to add?
No, I did not. Everything has been really great. No, ma'am, I don't have any questions. Thank you. I like the last question though about the appointment or about the school superintendent. I like that question. So that's a very hot topic right longer now.
Okay. All right. So we'll do our closing comments. We'll start with Daniela, Brittany, and then Chris. Teresa, get ready with that timer. Daniela, you're up.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm a mom and an educator, but I'm running primarily because of my experience in education. And having said that, we know that students are more successful when parents and families are involved. And I strongly believe in the importance of that. And I've said this before through my work, though. I know the reality that not every child has someone advocating for them. And that is why it is our responsibility as school board members to advocate for every child, not just our own children, to make sure that our kids are feeling safe and supported and seen. And it's our responsibility. This is why experience matters. Over the past 25 years, I've served at every education level, from the classroom to district to state leadership. I've learned that leading a school system isn't just about reading contracts or approving budgets. It's about actually understanding the value of what we're investing in, knowing what effective teaching looks like, recognizing how those decisions affect students. And the only way you get that is through 25 years of building empathy and understanding.
Okay. Brittany.
Education is a great equalizer because we know that not all students come from the same place or have the same background. And being able to provide a quality education for every student in Hillsborough County is so important. I do have my own children, so I understand how every decision that's being made will impact them. But it's not only impacting them, but it's impacting the generation that they will grow up in, and making sure that every child who graduates from a Hillsborough County public school has the means to be successful enough to stay here and live here is my priority. We're seeing high school graduates graduate right now and they cannot get a high enough paying job to keep up with the cost of living and stay here in Hillsborough County. So my priority is to make sure that every child has access to be successful, whether they want to go to college, enter a trade or vocational program, join the military, or just straight off enter the workforce. That is what our priority should be, is creating opportunities for children to be successful, stay here in Hillsborough County if that's what they want, and create a successful lives for them and their families.
Okay. Chris.
I think that we are at a tipping point for public education in the state of Florida. We have ever decreasing revenues, and I don't see any near time future with a legislature that's going to do anything to change that. That said, we need to look at the job of being a school board member. We are not looking for a teacher for our third grade classroom. We are looking for a person who is going to have governmental control over the most complex and largest business entity in Hillsborough County. Education is a unique business. Every person should have experience in education, but they also have to have experience in running large, complex business organizations. The Florida Constitution says that they have operations control, supervision,
Thank
timeout.
you. Teresa, you close us out.
Okay, so share. Just want to remind everybody, thank you so much for our candidates for being here. We have 100% of the candidates in this race here today. You've heard from everybody that's on your ballot. Make sure you get out and vote for our public schools and our judicial offices. It's important to recognize the difference between early voting and voting in person on election day. I think it happens frequently that people like to vote in person on election day, but something comes up and gets in the way. So early voting is a time when anybody can go vote together at any location. You don't have to be right at the precinct that's attached to your address. So it's a good opportunity for people to go together and vote. If you're at a back to school open house, you can all go vote together. If you're having a family brunch or you're at a church or a community event, you can all go vote together at early voting. You don't have to go right to the same precinct. That, of course, in Hillsborough County is from August 3rd through 16th from 10 to 6, and Election Day is August 18th from 7 to 7. And then lastly, I want to make sure that everybody knows about the League of Women Voters online voter guide. Vote411.org has been around for a long time at the federal, state, and local level. You can go on there, you can put in your address, and it pulls up exactly what's on your ballot, and you can see information that the candidates have uploaded directly from them. We don't touch the answers that they provide. So hopefully you'll go look at that nonpartisan, direct from the candidate voter information when you vote. And again, thank you so much for the information that we got from our candidates today. Amy, do you have any final thoughts?
No, I just let everybody know that we will have this recorded. We'll have it up on our YouTube channel as soon as possible. And it will also be on vote411.org on the candidate's profile. So you can go back and watch it and share it with your friends. So make sure they have the best information possible to make their decisions when they go vote on or before August 18th. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody, for being here.
Thank you.